When my oldest daughters started driving, we were thankful to have a few more drivers in the family to help run errands, go shopping, and take the younger kids where they needed to go. It was a blessing, but the downside to that was that the girls were also always borrowing the car for their own busy social lives. As a result, for the first time in my life, I often found myself walking, taking the bus, or calling a taxi to get where I needed to go. Because we didn't have enough cars to go around, it was clear that we needed another vehicle. It was the perfect opportunity. It was not a midlife crisis, it was necessity. I announced to my wife that I was getting a motorcycle. I shopped around and finally decided on a brand new 250cc Toro Matador. I was 40 years old and had never ridden a motorcycle before, so I first had to learn. After a few days' practice around the neighborhood, soon I was cruising all over the city in my cool leather jacket and shades. I thought my bike looked cool too, even though it was a lightweight. Why had I waited so long to do this? Riding a motorcycle was such an amazing sensation. The open roads, the wind in my face, freedom. I was hooked. For maintenance and repairs, I took my bike to a local shop and, over time, got to know the guys who worked there. One guy, named Paco, said, "Paul, you should come hang out with my friends and me. We have a little biker club that meets on Wednesday nights to ride and hang out." Cool, I thought. Hang out and actually ride with some real bikers. "Sure," I said. "I'll be there." The next Wednesday night, I geared up and headed out to the meeting place, a parking lot of local beer joint. I was a little nervous and excited. Sure enough, there were dozens of cool motorcycles and lots of sketchy-looking biker dudes. I rolled up on my little 250cc and parked among the massive Harleys and custom choppers. A few guys glanced at me, then went back to their drinking. Paco saw me and came over to greet me. I was relieved to see a familiar face. He introduced me around, but I was clearly way out of my element. These guys were serious, hardcore bikers. I tried to act cool, but newbie was written all over me. I wandered over to a couple tough-looking dudes with the intention of trying to talk to them. One of them turned to me and, without saying a word, pulled out a huge switchblade knife and held it open an inch from my face. My heart stopped for a second, then started racing, but I held my ground. He stared at me, stone cold. I stared back. After what seemed like an eternity, his face broke into a smile. He put away his knife and slapped me on the shoulder. "You're cool," he said. I let out a breath of relief and smiled back. "Nice knife," I said. "Was that a test? Did I pass?" As I got to know the guys, they invariably asked me where I was from. I told I was born in Philadelphia, and that was all it took. From then on, I was called Philadelphia, or Phil for short. Cool. Now I had an awesome biker nickname. I started going every Wednesday night and had a blast. As I got to know the guys, a few distinctions became apparent. One night, one of the guys called Psycho sat me down and said, "Okay, what are you doing here?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "I'm just hanging out." "Is there a problem?" He said, "Yeah, well, you look like a biker, but you don't talk like us. You don't get drunk or do drugs like us. You don't screw around with the girls like us. So what are you really doing here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not into that stuff. I'm actually a Christian and don't want to do anything that would dishonor my God." "Then you are in the wrong place," he said. "You don't belong here." That's when I knew I was in exactly the right place. I was eventually accepted by the whole gang, even with my conservative behavior and my little Matador 250. It eventually became necessary for me to upgrade to real bike, a Suzuki Intruder 1400cc, especially for the long road trips, rallies, club anniversaries, and other biker events of which there were many. This was just the beginning of my life as a real biker, with many more exciting and amazing adventures to follow over the next 20 years of biker ministry in Mexico. Thank you so much for listening to this true story from Memoirs of Mexico. If you enjoyed this story, or if it was a blessing to you, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. That would be a blessing to me. I upload a new true story every day. If you like to read, you can also order Memoirs of Mexico in paperback or ebook on Amazon.com. There's a link in the description. Thanks again for listening.